This is D&G of AP History. On this segment of D&G of AP History is An Age of Reform.
This whole age of reform thing started after the Second Great Awakening when people wanted a world free of cruelty, war, intoxication, discrimination, and ultimately slavery.
Yeah, and the whole middle class was completely unaware of this new era. So then America was gradually changing into this new era of reform, but the reform was only meant to better, society and its people. You know, they really wanted. In 1828, the American Peace Society was formed and was making promising progress on the war against war, but was set back by the Civil War.
Demon Rum, the old deluder.
One of the issues the reformers wanted to attack was the excessive drinking of alcohol.
Yeah, and so the custom of living and the hard, dull lives that these people lived led to the excessive drinking and consumption of hard liquor.
This caused a decrease in efficiency of workers, and it also affected families' spiritual welfare and the safety of women and children.
Yeah, and because of that, Neil S. Dow proposed the Maine Law of 1851 to prohibit the manufacture and sale of liquor, but within a decade, all of these laws were repealed.
Now, there was no way of stopping all of this consumption of alcohol, but right before the Civil War, there was a drastic change, and women especially had a lower consumption of alcohol, and there was just a less consumption of hard liquor per person.
So now, for our commercial break.
Now we're back with
Women in revolt.
In the 19th century, women had moral obligations and duties in the home, church, and community. They had few political and legal rights in the new republic.
Women were expected to subordinate themselves to her master, which was her husband. Okay. They couldn't vote, but they could legally be beaten with a reasonable instrument.
Excuse me?
Yeah. What is that?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, we have a special
Very
guest
special
today.
guest today.
And,
Thank you for joining us.
yeah.
He's going to give his input on this topic.
We call him
The
wife beater.
Okay, and then we're going to bring Brian in. This is our guest, Brian Wilkinson.
The wife beater.
So, Brian, do you think it's okay to beat a girl? Do you think it's okay?
Yes.
And, excuse me?
Excuse me, you think it's okay to beat women?
I think men have more rights than women.
Do you think women deserve rights?
You think women can't do what men can do?
No.
No! Please!
Who do you think you
Yeah!
are?
You think it's
I
okay?
am Brian Wilkinson.
So, what kind of instrument do you beat your wife with, huh?
Any reasonable one.
Oh,
Okay, so anything is just reasonable to beat your wife with?
Like, what does she do? Does she not make your meal perfect? Is that why?
Like, she gives you children. She cooks for you. She cleans for you, and you want to beat her
Yeah.
with some reasonable instrument?
What?
No.
I can't handle this, dude.
I can't even handle you right now. You know what? I want to beat you.
I'm gonna beat you now after that little incident. Oh, Brian Wilkinson. It's okay.
Gender difference was strongly emphasized in America.
Yeah. For example, women were physically and mentally weak, but were artistic and had the responsibility to teach the young how to be good citizens of America.
While men were strong yet ignorant and had to be guided by women to not become beastly.
So, some examples of some strong women at this time were Susan B. Anthony. She was a large advocate for women's rights, and she was an aggressive lecturer. Despite the vulgar hostility she received, she never backed down on her views for women's rights. Never.
Or what about Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell, a pioneer in medicine and was the first female to graduate from medical school? And Harriet Wilson, the first African American to publish a novel regarding racism.
And then there's the Grimke sisters. They started off fighting against slavery, and then that led to fighting for women's rights. And then there's Sarah Grimke. She wrote, "Men and women were created equal. Whatever is right for men is right for women." So despite all of the hostility these women were receiving for fighting for their rights, they never backed. So now, for our commercial break.
Now we're back with
Wilderness Utopia.
So a utopia was originally a Greek word for an imaginary place where everyone and everything was perfect.
Kind of like me and you. The utopian communities started out to reflect religious purity, but they then later turned into a contest for social perfection.
One of the earliest utopias was devised by George Rapp. He took 600 followers to western Pennsylvania in 1804, but his strict interpretation of the Bible, and he was always talking about, you don't do this, God, that, and it ended up causing everyone to fail.
So another utopian community that was around this time was the Shaker community. This was founded in England in 1747, but they then moved to New York in 1774 by Mother Ann Lee.
There were 6,000 members in 1840.
Wow.
But due to their customs, they were extinct by 1940.
Still a really long time.
Really.
So many utopian societies were created, but all failed or changed their methods.
The dawn of the scientific achievement.
So Americans weren't very interested in pure science. They were more interested in the practical use of things. It wasn't until the 19th century that they started to develop ideas on their own, and instead of borrowing and adopting the findings of Europeans.
Yeah, so during the Age of Reform, the field of medicine was finally starting to evolve.
Tooth extraction was even done by local blacksmiths. And if you needed surgery, you'd be tied down, given alcohol, and the surgeon would just proceed to saw through your bone, despite the piercing screams.
Thankfully, the successful innovation for medicine came in the 1840s when American doctors and dentists developed laughing gas and ether as anesthetics.
Another thing that evolved were treatments and conditions of prisoners and insane asylum patients.
So Dr. John Galt had many revolutionary ideas about treating the insane that improved from the previous harsh treatments. And so now we would like to give a welcome to our special guest,
Here's our friend from the Eastern Lunatic Asylum.
Peter Johnson. So Peter, tell us about your time in the Eastern Lunatic Asylum.
Well, they chained me up, and then they beat me with rods.
Oh, wow, that's very harsh. You didn't do anything wrong, did you?
No.
But how is it now after the reform?
Well, now I get talk therapy, and they treat me much better.
Oh, that's very good.
So, along with insane asylum reformers, there were prison reformers like Francis Leiber, who believed that prison stay should have a positive effect.
They believed that society had the responsibility for criminal activity instead of the criminals themselves.
So, to conclude, the early reformers had only started a revolution to end human suffering that still lives on today.
I was completely unaware of that.
Stop it, Gabby!
So, this age of reform, and it was...
Why did I say it?
Here is our friend, John Peterson.
John Peterson. Gave me dyslexia, John. I have dyslexia. Okay.
In the 19th century, in the 19th century, following it. Okay. How are you doing this?
I don't know. His rights.
Or what about a pioneer?
What the heck? I forgot her name.
So Dr. John Galt had many revolutionary ideas about treating...
Stop it.
Everyone's perfect but me.
And that's a wrap of D&G AP history.